So first of all, I want to thank all the sponsors. This has been great. This is the first developer type event I've come to. I'm going to go to more. I learn a lot. It's been a long time since I write code, so I'm not looking at your syntax and all this kind of stuff with your code and whatnot. But in my background, I started as a CPU designer, so it's very, very different. But we really appreciate what you guys, all your feedback, what you guys do, take the responsibility of shepherding, essentially, the product to make sure you guys have a successful business. I mean, I work at Magento, you are Magento, okay? We take it very seriously. And the stuff that Ben talked about with respect to GitHub and issues and developer support meaning documentation and whatnot, we have a lot more people than we've ever had, literally in the last 4 weeks, focused on this stuff. It's super, super important. The differentiation of Magento as a platform is you guys. It's the community. It really is. And it's the largest commerce platform in the world, and we plan for it to stay there. Okay? So we plan to make you guys more successful as we go forward. My passion is really, there's a day job and we all have it. But my passion in technology and working at Magento and what things I've done previously is innovation, it's invention, it's being disruptive, it's fun to me if you can do something that actually changes behavior in the world. In this case, we're talking about consumers or people in business for B2B. You guys, I'm sure, are aware, 30% roughly of our 3,000 plus enterprise customers are B2B. And that's without us having done anything special for them, even though we are working on it. I think it was Brendan was pointing out, it's funny, I don't know why it took this long, because it kind of started maybe the end of 2015. People who use a B2B commerce system, which oftentimes an ERP to do a purchase, they're consumers, and suddenly they're demanding the consumer-like experience, choice, price too, and all that kind of stuff for what they do in their business. And the stuff I want to talk about around innovation and kind of, and again, I'm not wrong, I might be wrong, but this is all guess / are you going to make it happen here? All right. Science. You had to load it on your computer?
Yep.
Jeez. Nice. Okay, you redeemed yourself. That's good. Awesome, that's good. I usually walk up to AC/DC back in blacks, but that's good. But to do this exercise, you have to step away from your day job. I mean, we all have there's a fire burning we're dealing with, there's a project, the customer's yelling at you, your boss is yelling, all that stuff. No one spends much time on this. Most companies don't invest in it. Google says, I don't know, engineers can spend 20% of their time on whatever, but most of it never, that's kind of the extreme, but a lot of that never makes its way right to product or that people see. And so my ask of you is, there's an opportunity if you spend time on what I'm going to suggest. You can we're big enough that you can blaze a trail, you can actually change the way people shop. And that's my goal, is to try to do that. Moving ahead, I'm screwing it up. This is so touchy, this little thing. Okay, who knows what that is? The runners in the room? Huh? I did this in front of 1,200 people, only one hand. That's a mechanical pedometer. Nobody gave a shit about counting steps until that thing showed up. And that wasn't that long ago, and you guys probably got one, or everyone in your workspace or whatever got one, and unbelievable, right? And so the reason I point this out is it has to do with technology adoption. Since I'm a hardware guy, for us it was Moore's Law about computing speed and how rapidly it changed. Technology adoption, and this is a form of it, is just off the charts now. You guys are probably, most of you, too young to remember VHS and Betamax war and that kind of thing. That's how technology used to happen. It would be like there'd be several things competing, very few people. Only the top 1% would spend money on the early thing because they're like, I'm waiting. It's not that way anymore. Partially because technology's gone down, and partially, I gotta take my phone out. Partially it's because of this. In my opinion, this has changed everything. Why did we get a Fitbit? Well, first of all, gamification. There's apps that it talks to, so you've got some kind of, you've essentially got little BI on your on your phone related to, sort of your fitness band or whatever it is. And where people are fascinated with it and they want to compete, so competition's another part of it. And the adoption of this thing was tremendously rapid. It was unbelievable, which is why a bunch of other players rapidly came into the market. The adoption is just unbelievable. And just to give you an idea, the standard sort of feature phone, the one that didn't do anything, didn't connect to the internet, took a long time for 10% penetration of the market. And I don't mean the entire world having a phone, but the addressable market, people who could actually buy a program and get a phone. The smartphone was about 1/5 the time to reach 10% market penetration. The iPad took 1/3 the time of the smartphone. And things now are just happening so rapidly, it's just truly unbelievable. And it's a lot of it, to me, the stuff you see that gets adopted very quickly has something to do with a companion application, data, and friction reduction. And this isn't a bad statement, it can be, but we are sheep. I mean, and I have a perfect example in case you don't think we're sheep. But part of the adoption is going to be that something does something useful for you. Uber screwed up apparently some local vote here, so there's no Uber. But Fasten works, by the way. I used it now twice. It's awesome. But Uber is an example of widespread adoption of something that has amazing utility. The old way you used to get a cab completely sucks. I mean, I've been in all kinds of places around the world when you had to get a cab. I mean, people take your cab, the person doesn't speak the same language as you, you don't take credit cards, I have no cash, the whole thing is it's a cluster. And Uber totally changed that. It's almost magical, really, and Fasten works just as well. And this is what we have to do for commerce. And I learned this with building the apps. I built the app, but the way I got started in mobile was eBay, while they own PayPal. And so I built the mobile apps for eBay and PayPal and StubHub and all the classifieds businesses. Nobody was doing anything in 2008. I mean, zero. John Donahoe had a feature phone. And it was literally a StarTAC flip open. It was like a Star Trek communicator kind of phone. And he would buy them on eBay because they were already gone by 2008. You couldn't buy them. And the adoption of shopping convenience on mobile was very apparent, and people thought, because eBay did such big numbers, because we reported them, and still today a lot of people don't report their mobile commerce numbers, they thought, oh, it must be something to do with eBay, because an auction's ending. And that wasn't it, because we had the data on Buy It Now and all sorts of stuff. That was not it. It was convenience. It was, and you had to have that flow. Every single step or second you took out of the flow matters even more in mobile. Someone was saying something about it earlier. More important than desktop. Desktop, I'm planted. It's like I'm playing the piano, which I'll talk about in a second, which still sucks, I think. I don't want to sit like I'm playing a piano while I'm shopping. It's not a good posture. And so the other part of mobile had to do, and shopping, for consumers anyway, had to do with inspiration. Because usually you're at this event during break and you look at someone's watch and you're, what is that? And you start talking, now you want it right then and there. You used to not really be able to act on it. Now you can just instantly act on it. I had all these stories when I was running that group about people would come up to me and tell me about weird places they were buying on the phone. The toilet was weird at first, and then it was like super common. I would hear that. But a guy on a ski lift literally buying the bindings the guy had next to him on the ski lift before he got off the lift on eBay, which is super cool. So people are sheep. Here's my example. You know what they're doing? Pokemon Go, yeah. What the hell is going on with you people? Pokemon Go. I don't even understand this thing. It's unbelievable. Okay, where I live, I have a cemetery in my backyard. I'm not kidding. There's a little bit of space, so there's no bodies really close to me, but I got this beautiful hill, and it's a cemetery on the top of the hill. And for some reason, cemeteries are very popular for Pokemon Go. I don't know what it is, but this is a perfect example. I mean, I don't know why, but we're sheep, and you can do something in shopping, just like Uber took off like this, that will get adopted and super fast, because I don't remember the numbers, but maybe someone in here has remembered, but the users of Pokemon Go, it's like the fastest adoption of like sort of using an app in history. Just unbelievable how quickly they went over 100 million and then on. Just crazy. I mean, it was faster than Facebook. David Marcus is a friend of mine who runs Messenger, so don't tweet this. I don't care, go ahead and tweet it. Facebook forced you to use Messenger. So, that initial adoption was pretty fast. I think this was actually faster, because if you wanted to do messages on mobile, you were forced to download the app. But this kind of stuff is just phenomenal. But it's an opportunity, I think. So what I'm going to talk about is sort of technology adoption, but the technology, the devices, sometimes it's software, sometimes it's hardware. And you guys, and I'm thinking about it as lumber. It's nothing by itself. Amazon Echo, if you want to buy an Amazon, okay, it does something out of the box. But think of it as lumber. We've connected up Amazon Echo to Magento through an API, and you can actually do some store management stuff by using voice. What's the next order? And then you'd have a headset on, and you can hear the next order, and you could go pick it. All the technology out there that will enable an interesting experience, the mobile app enables things like Uber and Fasten, are just lumber until you do something with it and come up with an idea. And this is a big one. This is where, I didn't really know it. I didn't think about it much when I bought online on a desktop before mobile. If I saw there was a delay when you click, and hopefully they gave you some indication there's a delay, whether it's a spinning wheel or whatever it is. But I didn't think about it much, because you're sitting down, maybe the TV's on, it's at the counter in the kitchen, you're eating a sandwich. It's not a big deal necessarily. Although, again, there's good data on site speed even when people are in that situation. But when it comes to mobile, friction is everything. So there's eBay track this stuff relentlessly, because A/B testing and all this kind of happen all the time. People watch the needles maybe too much, because if it moved a teeny bit, it's freak out time. But if you remove friction, and it's there was somebody talking about checkout flow, I think it was our PayPal guy. It's so important. I mean, the quicker you can get the money, it's like being a pickpocket. If you do it slow, you're going to get caught. So you got to be a good pickpocket as an e-commerce solution provider. And this, to me, I think, is where the opportunity is, until you get to my crazy idea, which is maybe it will never happen. So to me, how do you reduce friction? What's the best way to remove the clicks we have now? And I'll get to a zero-click. My idea of, which is maybe 10 years out, is a zero-click shopping experience. But I bring up Amazon Echo for a good reason. I think the next paradigm for how we interact, not just shopping, but for shopping, could be voice. If any of you bought a car recently, and you had a car, let's say, that was 5 years old, you've noticed, probably, depends on the manufacturer, that the voice recognition in the car has improved vastly. Siri has gotten a lot better. Problem is, people use this stuff. First time I got an iPhone or Siri came out, they didn't like it, didn't work so good, and so you have scar tissue, so do you go back and try? But the reason I think this is going to be important for shopping, maybe even B2B, because I can multitask if I don't drive the keyboard and a mouse or move around on my phone, is it's lean back. And what we found was just changing people's physical position, which they did with an iPad. I mean, kids would watch, I didn't understand why they would do this, but kids would, on an iPhone or an iPod or something, little screen, would watch movies for 2 hours and lay on their back and hold it up. I thought it was nuts. Most adults won't do that. But what we found is that people spent way more and had much longer sessions when they were using an iPad. And we did research, and guess what? They were sitting back. They're on a couch, the feet are up, they're on a lounge chair in the backyard. It wasn't a sitting in piano playing position. You're more apt to spend. You're relaxed. Just like, by the way, I encouraged, when I was running mobile at eBay, drinking and shopping. That's another good one. So if you can figure out a way to make your site encourage drinking while shopping, they'll make more money. But I think voice will allow this kind of experience regardless of the platform or the screen, is what I really mean. And it doesn't have to be Amazon Echo. There's now companies, part of the reason I'm guessing this will be a paradigm shift is because the number of companies working on building something like Amazon Echo for different uses. Some of them are B2B use cases, some of them are, so different kinds of devices, earbuds and things like that. To be hands-free, built-in voice recognition, there's open source library, it's happening. Just like we know there's going to be an autonomous car, because every single manufacturer is working on it and has a lot of money. It's going to happen. It's going to kill people too. Already has. But it's going to happen, and so I know this will happen. And so this is a thing you could do right now. You could connect Echo up to the APIs and have basically you got to do some work. You got to create responses. You got to build a library of expected sort of things people are saying and that kind of stuff, which will make it work better. But if I could sit back on my couch and stick the laptop or the iPad and not even hold it, just stick it on the table and not touch the keyboard, and say go on to Nike.com and say men's shoes, and maybe it says size 12, and it just does it. I'm going to go there. That's where I'm going to buy the shoes. I'm going to do it. And I think that'll be just, same way you navigate the car. I mean, my nav in one of my cars works great. I just say navigate to after pressing the little voice button on the steering wheel, and I speak an address, and it works. It goes in, and I never took my eyes off the road. And I think the relaxed position, not having to interact necessarily in the same way we're used to, is going to change things. And again, on the B2B side, it's going to change things too. People can walk around a store. They can pick items for buy online, pick up in store, or ship from store. You can make people way more productive. All kinds of workforce possibilities with people in the back office and things like that, where they can multitask. This is why people like texting, because I can talk to you on the phone and text at the same time, and it's like, what? I'm having two conversations. It's not a good thing because you're screwing somebody with good conversation, I think, in most cases. I'm not too good at it. But, and so that can be done today, and there's a lot of things that could be done today with the devices that are out there. You guys, it's not prime time yet for VR. Maybe it is for gaming, but nothing else. Augmented reality, yeah, you could totally create an interesting commerce and shopping situation, augmented reality. I've already talked about voice. I think voice will be the next thing. The other ones are too expensive, frankly. It's making 3D models, making environments. Eventually there'll be tooling that gets there, but it's going to take a while. I've done it before. I've created 3D shopping experiences with 3D models and created an environment and the research and exploration of the item and tried to figure out how do I make you understand a thing you've never seen and you're buying online. And there's always going to be stores, by the way, because when I talk to retailers, they're like, you're not saying we're going to have, no, there's going to be stores, right? Because people like to, eventually if we make, a way to smell something or touch its texture, maybe a store goes away. But people like that tactile sort of experience. But how do you make people understand a physical object? But it was really, really hard. And when you put it in front of people, it has to be photorealistic. And the gaming industries created that problem because the millennials or everyone who's played games, there's hair moving on the guy's face, the soldier's face and stuff. So if you show me a lamp and it's clearly a cartoon, like I'm not going to react to that. That's not a good way to show me product. But if it's photorealistic and I can stick the lamp on my table using augmented reality and it's the right size, because by the way, there's cool tricks. You can take a coin in whatever geography somebody's in, those are of known size, and take this coin, maybe it's a nickel here, and put it in this circle, press a button, and now basically the software says, okay, I understand the size of the universe. Or take a picture of a wall outlet, switch plate cover, they're kind of universal size. Most doors in US internal doors are 2 feet 8 inches, stuff like that. So you show me the lamp, photorealistic, on my table, I might buy that without seeing it in person. Just the next problem is the lamp, it's metal, is it super tinny, like it weighs nothing, I don't like that, I want, so there's lots of things like that. But all that stuff can be solved, and these things will absolutely move the needle. I mean, we did little experiments on models like this, but it was too expensive to go wide scale, especially for eBay, because we weren't the seller. We were just enabling all these 1.5 million sellers to put product on. And you need to do a lot of work with products and taking pictures and that kind of stuff. So my real goal in life is to have autonomous shopping. So there's two kinds of shopping. One is things you need. And this is a chore. These are errands on the weekend. It's a light bulb because the light bulb is burnt out. It's the fridge filter. It's mayonnaise. It's bread. Diapers for the baby. It's all that stuff. That's not fun shopping. Does anybody think that's fun shopping? Maybe I'm insulting somebody. So I don't like shopping because of that problem, buying that kind of stuff. I don't even like shopping for things that I want, like another pair of pants or shoes. it sucks. You got to park. The people, when you walk in a store and there's people kind of doing this and they're in the way, and the whole thing is a bad experience for me. I get very irritated super fast. And there's got to be a better way. And so autonomous shopping, which requires data, it requires real personalization, like knowing you individually, knowing your purchase history, and it probably requires some devices in your life, and which eventually, by the way, I don't think the connected home is going to be, little teeny sensors in everything. The soap dish can detect there's no bar there, none of that kind of stuff. I think it'll end up being a 360 or a semi-spherical camera in the ceiling of each room, and image recognition will be so good, and we'll have so much compute power in cheap devices that I can identify everything in the room constantly. I could see you use the mayonnaise and tell from software that it's like pretty low. And I've seen in the pantry there's not another jar. So you probably need more mayonnaise. And if you bought that for me and you didn't ask, so it's autonomous, I'm probably okay with that. In fact, I'm like, this is like a present, but it's actually just sundries and replenishable food and that kind of stuff. And this is a selfish goal because I want to spend my life doing fun stuff. Okay, on the weekend, I don't want to get light bulbs and change the wiper blades, and I don't want to do that stuff. I don't even want to go get the pants that I want. That's a pain. I want somebody else to do it. And I had this idea, or at least wanted to start talking about it. Maybe I'm not the guy who thought this up, but because a friend that has a personal assistant, and this is what this person did for him. Unfortunately, only billionaires can afford a personal assistant, right? We all can't have a personal assistant. To get a good one, you got to pay them a lot of money, it turns out. But this is what they do. They act as that camera. My friend's assistant will literally notice that he has low stuff and he has a couple homes, right? He's a rich guy. Or that she's in the car with him and she notices that the windshield wiper blades are smearing. They're not squeegeeing the water. So she makes a note. And magically they're replaced. Nothing wears out in his life. Nothing's ever broken. And there's always mayonnaise in the fridge, And so, shirts she replaces and he doesn't notice. It's a weird existence. And he didn't realize it till I brought it up because I was having dinner with them and she told me all this stuff she did for him. And I was like, you're weird. Like, dude, you have no idea. You're not like anybody else. If this is not our existence, we have to do stuff and it's a lot of work. But I think this will happen. Now, I was talking, I forget it was Gabriel or somebody earlier. I'm shocked today how little personalization actually shows up in an e-commerce experience. I was telling him I shop at Nordstrom a lot. It's high quality for the most part. They free shipping to send it back. It's great. I buy a whole bunch of stuff and I send most of it back. I don't have to go to the store. It's great. So it's my way of, I set up a little store inside my house when it all shows up, basically, and then I can send it back. That's great. It's super convenient. And they're happy to do it. The data probably says it's worth it. People buy like 3 sizes, they end up taking one. That's good for them, right? So their return rate doesn't fit the model. They're probably okay with it because they've been doing it for a while, and they wouldn't if it didn't pay. And you got to record this data. You have to use and I don't know why they don't use it. I go on to Nordstrom.com. I'm cookied. They know it's me, and it's an Estee Lauder ad. And when I page down, it's all women's clothes because, I don't know, they maybe think most of the time someone coming there is a woman. Are you kidding? I've been shopping there for since they opened. But they don't do anything to make it Steve's store. And I think that's the trick. And autonomous shopping and full sort of like this magic I'm talking about, it's going to take a lot of data, and it's like we're going to have to get past this point where no one's using the data. So people have to make small steps. I was talking to someone earlier, I want to build something into Magento, which is just a very small thing because we have a lot of people in the fashion vertical. Just have something that says male or female and give a way for people to put this in their catalog so we know which products are male or female, and that would be fantastic. But I think people are scared for these shifts because they're like, well, what if the guy's there to buy a gift for his wife? He can click over to women's clothes. It's not a big deal, but if he's there and you know it's him, make it their store. Cater to them. The other thing that's, maybe makes this happen, which is another area that's pretty interesting, it's a newer area of artificial intelligence. I've read a lot of books about artificial intelligence. There's people who are very scared of it because there's a thing called ASI, which is artificial superintelligence. And if you're interested, see me while we're having a cocktail, and I'll give you the name of a book, which is a great one to read. It sounds like a Terminator kind of, a research book in a way, because I think it may be required to literally create what I'm talking about, the true digital assistant, which maybe goes beyond shopping, but just makes your life, you work, you do your job, but you have infinitely more time to live your life. And I think, again, selfishly, but I believe in, I have a lot of my folks in the room. It's really important for people to have a life. I mean, you solve problems in your head, you become more creative, you're more fit, you're less stressed, and that kind of stuff. So it's a good thing for everybody. We don't want people just to dig ditches and go to sleep, wake up, and dig a ditch again. That's not good. But artificial superintelligence may be required because it has to figure out a change in the person that it's being the assistant for. And what it is, a superintelligence comes from two things. One is the system, and I call it a system because it's not just software, it's a combination of software and hardware. The system has to be self-improving, so it has to write its own code. It's an interesting trick, so think about that. Lots of you guys are developers. And the second one, and I believe we can do that. I believe it's hard, but I believe we can get to self-improving code, and it literally creates its own code. Hard work, but I think we can do it. The next one, I'm not sure I believe. The next one is where it becomes self-aware, which there's lots of definitions of, but that's like Terminator. And the reason people are scared of it, because first of all, they believe if it's self-improving, that, and once it becomes self-aware and it understands sort of the universe that it sits in, which it's a machine, it sits connected to a wire, and it's connected to a whole lot more machines. And then it can start doing things like replicating itself to protect itself, which some people think will happen, or to make itself more powerful and improve. Because if I have redundancy and I have more performance, so but the part with self-awareness has to also do with understanding that environment, and so it can be now ultimately improving, that the rate at which it will learn is unbelievable. Like literally, we will potentially create technology, solve a science problem we won't solve for 1,000 years. Because it literally has every bit of information accessible through that wire, which it can consume and figure out what to do with super rapidly. And so there was one book that I would recommend to folks. The guy that wrote the book, and it's a great job of talking to all the people around the world who are kind of doing this. And by the way, the reason, same example I used before, the reason that there will be some interesting artificial intelligence gains is there are very rich people who have spun off 6 to 8 organizations that do nothing but this, spending serious money. Same as flying cars, autonomous cars, self-driving, whatever. We have, 4 or 5 billionaires who have 6 or 7 companies all making a flying car. You don't want the autonomous one because it uses your iPhone to fly, and if you lose connection, I don't know what happens, but it's like being in a big drone. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. Your neighbor shoots it down thinking you're spying or whatever. So one of the predictions that these guys have, the guys who are scared, is that one of the problems or the advancement that superintelligence will solve is literally how to convert matter from one thing to the other. So tearing apart molecules and atoms and reassembling. And the idea is that, I don't know why they think that the machine would become evil, because if it understood the world and all the literature and all the history it can consume, why would it automatically go, I want to be like Kim Jong or Hitler or something? I don't really get that, where it wouldn't understand like, hey, a pony's nice and cats are beautiful and babies are cute. And so why it would go evil, I don't know if it really went there, but that it would literally consume us, because you're just molecules, you're just fuel. So I'll use you to make more energies or my next robot or whatever it is. So it's a fascinating topic. I know that was a little bit far from commerce and whatever, but my goal for you guys is to think about how you participate. If you have an idea, come talk to me. I will help you make it happen. We'll make you famous and make a super cool integration from some piece of technology out there on the planet, which will be interesting for somebody, one of the people in our ecosystem who's a customer. I'd love to do it. I've got some guys working on some. Maybe we'll have a thing at Imagine, and we'll have live demos on the stages, some really cool stuff that might become something that changes commerce. That's really my goal. So I want you guys to come along on the journey. Let's not follow the sheep. Let's blaze a trail. So do that with me. Oh, wait. There we go. So getting back to Ben slides and GitHub and all this kind of stuff, it is super important that you guys understand, and it is literally a recent change inside the company. We have new leaders in the company who are involved in engineering. We have a lot of new folks involved in sort of where we're going, like Marketplace. You guys saw Bhavin in the back. We don't think we have a interesting, go forward, successful company without taking care of the development community, the heart of really what makes Magento important. And we know, the passion, you guys know if you've been to Imagine, the passion with the folks who do stuff on top, build on our back, it's amazing. It's fantastic. So we take it super serious. I have a lot of resource right now, much to the dismay of my board, focused on making sure M2 is solid and that people doing deployments get deployed and that it runs fast. Super important to us. So I just want you guys to know that, and I thank you for your patience when you run into issues. We want to know about them. That's why there was people here who weren't presenting and they're just here to listen. It's just super important, okay? So I want to thank you guys for being here. And please, big round of applause for all the speakers and the sponsors.